It can be really hard to know when it's time to go to the hospital when you're pregnant and you feel like you're having all these contractions. When is it time to go? And how do you know if you're in labor? That's a really good question, and one that can only be answered by going in and getting checked out. But here's some things you can look for as far as when it's more likely that it's time for you to actually go in when you're in labor. A lot of people feel like they're in labor if they're contracting. A lot of people say, I was in labor for 5 days, but really they were just contracting regularly for 5 days. And the true definition of labor is cervical change, meaning your cervix is actively dilating hour by hour. So a woman may be contracting regularly for 5 days, but only be in labor for, 8 hours or something. So really, again, the only way you can know if you're in labor is by going to the hospital and getting your cervix checked. And then as long as everything else is looking good, they'll leave you alone to work really hard for an hour, and then they'll come back and check your cervix again and see if you've dilated. And if you have, then that's awesome. You're in labor and you get to stay. But if your cervix hasn't changed in that amount of time and everything looks good, then your doctor's likely to send you home to continue working hard and come back when your contractions are more intense and more frequent. There are other reasons to go to the hospital, though, other than contractions. If at any time you have bright red vaginal bleeding, you feel like you're leaking fluid, or you don't feel your baby move as much, then it's also time to go to the hospital. But if all those things are looking good and you're past 37 weeks, stay at home till your contractions are 3 to 5 minutes apart and they're intense enough that you have to stop and breathe through them. And again, make sure your baby's moving even while you're having contractions, you're not bleeding, and that your water doesn't seem to be broken. And if you wait until your contractions are more intense and more frequent, then it just increases the chances of your cervix actually dilating so that you can stay at the hospital when you actually go. But do know that it's really normal, especially if you're a first-time mom, to get sent home at least once because you don't quite know how this is going to feel. So again, the only way you can know is by going to the hospital and getting checked out. If you have any more questions specific to your individual circumstances, be sure to talk to your OB provider. If you'd like to hear more tips like this each week, be sure to like us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/Intermountain Moms, subscribe to our posts, and recommend us to your friends and family too.